So we have new information about who's the Supreme Court leaker of the abortion opinion, and it really is a grave betrayal of trust, as Justice Alito said. Let's talk about it in today's video. Hi, I'm Mike Greiner. I'm a lifelong Democratic activist who's concerned about the direction our country is taking. I'm also a lawyer and an academic, and I'm here to help you stand up to the BS of the MAGA crowd. So I'm probably going to regret this, but I'm going to tell you the headline right at the beginning of the video, which is that Justice Alito was probably the leaker. Why am I saying that? Well, we have all sorts of new evidence here. And suddenly a lot of the stuff that we've been seeing makes a lot of sense. I mean, right after the leak had come out, Justice Alito went on the record saying that it was a grave betrayal of trust and how outraged he was over the fact that this opinion was leaked. As a result of that, Chief Justice John Roberts announced an investigation into the leak. And isn't it funny? We haven't heard anything more about that investigation since then. I wonder why. At the time the leak came out, of course, some of us had speculated as to who would be the leaker. I mean, it's so unusual that there would be a leak like this at the Supreme Court. And the question you kind of had to ask yourself was who would benefit from such a leak? And you have to understand the dynamic that was going on here. You have the 3 liberal justices who are opposed to the Dobbs decision. That's the decision that overturned Roe v. Wade. You have the 5 justices, the conservative ones, 3 of whom were appointed by Trump, and at least 2 of whom have been credibly accused of sexual harassment, in favor of the Dobbs decision overturning Roe v. Wade. In the middle of it all was Chief Justice John Roberts, who, although he's not an abortion supporter, his biggest concern is the credibility of the court. He realizes the damage that the court has taken over the years by the accurate perception that it's completely out of touch with the American public, and that's become little more than a super legislature of unelected officials in black robes, pursuing their own petty political agendas rather than the jurisprudence for the country at large. And so he wasn't in favor of overturning Roe v. Wade. He wanted to find some narrow way of upholding the law that was being challenged. Something that would have allowed the law to go forward without entirely overturning Roe v. Wade. Alito, though, who actually was the author of the opinion while he was on the Court of Appeals that was reversed by the Supreme Court in the Webster decision, is a hardcore pro-lifer who's been pursuing that agenda relentlessly. His concern was he had the 5 votes with the people who'd signed on to the opinion, but until it's finalized, one of them could have gone away. Kavanaugh, in particular, might have joined Justice Roberts on a more narrow decision. And I can guarantee the 3 liberal justices would have also signed on to that opinion to make sure that Roe v. Wade was not overturned. Well, to make sure that didn't happen, Alito leaked his opinion. In that way, he cut off any further discussion and any further possibility that one of his 5 supporters might decide to go with the option presented by Judge Roberts. So that logic seemed to make sense, but it was hard to imagine that Justice Alito himself would be the one to do it. But I mean, could have been one of his clerks or one of his supporters. But now we have credible proof that this is not the first time Justice Alito was leaking Supreme Court decisions before they were decided. No, it's now been revealed by former evangelical Christian activist Rob Schenck, an anti-abortion leader, that Justice Alito leaked the Hobby Lobby decision before it was announced to the general public. Alito and kind of the intermediaries between Alito and Schenck, Gail Wright, deny the allegation. But as it turns out, the New York Times has uncovered quite a bit of evidence to support the allegation. Alito, of course, was also the author of the Hobby Lobby decision, as he was for the Dobbs decision. And this is actually a case that I study with my students in class. It's a case that says that basically businesses have religious freedom rights, and as a result didn't need to comply with the requirements of the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare, that they cover contraception for their employees. This decision was seen as a huge victory for the Christian right because it meant that their businesses that they might own didn't need to help pay for people's contraception, which for some reason they're against, I guess. But more than that, it opened up a new door for religious protections, which are the kind of thing that the Supreme Court lately loves granting, especially when it's Christian evangelicals who are looking for it. So this is exactly the kind of decision that a right-wing Supreme Court justice might leak to his right-wing evangelical supporters. Just as what happened with the Dobbs decision. Alito, of course, has already established himself as a liar, since it turns out that while he was seeking support for his nomination to the Supreme Court, he told then Senator Ted Kennedy that he was not in favor of overturning Roe v. Wade. That, I think you could safely say, was a lie. But it's kind of par for the course because, of course, we know that Justice Kavanaugh, another one of the Dobbs Five, told Senator Susan Collins that he would not be in favor of overturning Roe v. Wade. So it appears that being able to lie is a job requirement of the Supreme Court these days, at least among the right wing. Well, if you want to see more evidence about how the Supreme Court has become thoroughly politicized, advocating an extreme right-wing authoritarian agenda, check out this video over here. It turns out that we're basically undergoing a coup in America that's being imposed upon us by right-wing justices. I'll see you then. In the meantime, let's hope for continued progress. Thank you.